You taught your son that unconscious means yes. You didn't mean to, but you did. Every time you showed him Sleeping Beauty, every time you told him it was romantic, every time you celebrated the moment Prince Philip kissed Aurora while she slept. You taught him that a girl doesn't need to be awake to be kissed, doesn't need to consent, doesn't need to say yes, that if she's beautiful enough, unconscious enough, helpless enough, he has the right to put his mouth on hers. And we call this true love. We call this a fairy tale. We call this the moment that breaks the curse. But let's call it what it actually is. A man kissing an unconscious girl without her permission. By the end of this, you'll understand why Sleeping Beauty is the most dangerous love story we ever told our sons. Why consent culture starts with the stories we tell in childhood. And why this fairy tale has been teaching boys that no isn't necessary if she's sleeping. Before we continue, I need to tell you something. My grandmother said nobody wants to hear this, that I'm ruining childhood magic, that people prefer their fairy tales pure and their princes charming. But I think she's wrong. I think you're here because you care about what we teach our children about consent, about respect, about the difference between romance and violation. If you believe these conversations matter, subscribe to the Midnight Tales. Help me prove that uncomfortable truths about our stories need to be told. Now let's continue, because what you're about to learn changes everything about Sleeping Beauty. Close your eyes. Think back. You're a child, maybe 5 years old, maybe 7. You're watching Sleeping Beauty, the 1959 Disney animated classic. The music swells. Tchaikovsky's ballet, beautiful, sweeping, romantic. And you see her, Aurora, Princess Aurora, also called Briar Rose. She's beautiful, the most beautiful girl in the kingdom. Long blonde hair, perfect features. Grace, incarnate. She's been cursed since birth. The evil fairy Maleficent, angry at not being invited to the christening. She cursed the baby princess. Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, Aurora will prick her finger on a spinning wheel spindle and die. But the good fairies modified the curse, changed death to sleep. She won't die. She'll just sleep. Until true love's kiss awakens her. So Aurora grows up hidden in the forest, raised by 3 fairies pretending to be peasant women. She doesn't know she's a princess, doesn't know about the curse. She's innocent, pure, lovely. And on her 16th birthday, she meets a stranger in the forest, a handsome man, Prince Philip. They dance, they sing. Once upon a dream. It's romantic, it's magical, it's fate. They fall in love instantly. But then Aurora returns home, and the curse activates. Despite the fairies' best efforts, Maleficent lures Aurora to a hidden spinning wheel. Aurora touches the spindle and falls into a death-like sleep. The fairies place her in the highest tower of the castle. They put the entire kingdom to sleep. Everyone will sleep until she wakes. And Prince Philip must fight his way through Maleficent's thorns, must battle the dragon, must reach the sleeping princess. And when he does, when he climbs those tower stairs, when he finds her lying there, beautiful and unconscious, he does what any prince would do. He kisses her, and she wakes. The curse is broken. True love conquers all. They live happily ever after. It's one of the most iconic moments in Disney history. True love's first kiss. The image of the prince leaning over the sleeping princess. It's been recreated in countless movies, referenced in pop culture, celebrated as the ultimate romantic gesture. That's the story we know. That's the story we tell our children. That's the story we believe is innocent. But let me ask you a question you've probably never thought to ask. What gave him the right to kiss her? Not destiny, not the curse, not true love. I'm asking legally, ethically, morally. What gave Prince Philip the right to put his mouth on an unconscious girl's mouth without her permission? The answer is nothing. Nothing gave him that right, because unconscious people cannot consent. Let's talk about consent. Real consent. Not fairy tale magic consent. Not the story says it's okay consent. Real, legal, ethical consent. Consent requires several things. It requires consciousness. You cannot consent if you're not awake. This isn't complicated. This isn't ambiguous. An unconscious person cannot give consent. Period. It requires communication. Consent is an active agreement. A yes spoken or clearly communicated. Silence is not consent. Lack of resistance is not consent. Being asleep is definitely not consent. It requires freedom. Consent given under coercion, threat, or deception isn't real consent. And consent given while you're literally under a magical curse that's controlling your body isn't consent either. It requires capacity. You must be able to make a rational decision. Children can't consent to adults. Intoxicated people can't consent. And magically unconscious people definitely can't consent. Now let's look at Aurora, Princess Aurora, also known as Briar Rose. She is 16 years old, and she is completely unconscious, not asleep in the normal sense. Not, she might wake up if you're loud, magically, curse-induced death-like unconsciousness. She cannot wake up, cannot move, cannot speak, cannot open her eyes, cannot communicate in any way. She is, for all practical purposes, in a coma. And Prince Philip knows this. He knows she's under a curse. He knows she's unconscious. He knows she cannot wake up until true love's kiss. And he kisses her anyway. He leans over her unconscious body. He puts his hands on her. He puts his mouth on her mouth. He kisses Soul, girl who cannot consent, who cannot say yes, who cannot participate, who is completely, utterly helpless. And the movie frames this as romantic, as heroic, as the moment we're supposed to cheer for. The music swells. The animation is beautiful. It's the climax of the film, the moment of true love. But strip away the music, strip away the animation, strip away the "it's just a fairy tale" excuse. And what you have is a man kissing an unconscious girl without her permission. That's not romance. That's a violation. And we've been teaching this to children for 65 years. We've been teaching boys that if a girl is beautiful enough, helpless enough, unconscious enough, they have the right to kiss her. That her consent is optional, that her awareness is unnecessary, that her participation doesn't matter. We've been teaching girls that being unconscious and helpless is romantic. That the ultimate form of love is being saved while you sleep. That you don't need to be an active participant in your own love story. That your first kiss doesn't require your presence. And we wonder why we have a consent crisis. We wonder why "she was too drunk to say no" is used as a defense. We wonder why unconscious girls get assaulted at parties. We wonder why boys grow up not understanding that consent requires consciousness. We taught them this with Sleeping Beauty. With the kiss, we celebrated. With the prince, we idolized. We taught them that unconscious means yes. But it gets worse. Because the Disney version, as problematic as it is actually the sanitized version. The original fairy tale is so much darker, so much worse. And when you hear what actually happens in earlier versions, you'll understand why consent wasn't even a consideration. Sleeping Beauty is old, really old. The earliest written version we have is from 1528. Perceforest, a French romance. In that version, the sleeping princess is named Celandine, And the prince who finds her doesn't just kiss her, he rapes her while she's unconscious. He has sex with her sleeping body, and she remains asleep through the assault. She wakes up 9 months later, not from true love's kiss, but from childbirth. She gives birth to twins while still under the curse, still asleep. One of the babies, searching for milk, sucks on her finger, removes the cursed splinter, and that's what wakes her. Not love, not a kiss. Discovering she's been raped and has given birth while unconscious. Let that sink in for a moment. The original Sleeping Beauty is a story about a man raping an unconscious woman, about her waking up to discover she's been violated and is now a mother. This isn't subtext. This isn't interpretation. This is the literal plot. The story was later retold by Giambattista Basile in 1634. In his version, Sun, Moon, and Talia, the details are even more explicit. Talia falls into a death-like sleep. A king finds her. He is overcome by her beauty. He gathers the first fruits of love while she sleeps. That's how Basile describes rape. Gathering the first fruits of love. She gives birth to twins while still asleep. The babies, trying to nurse, suck the splinter from her finger. She wakes up, and the king comes back, explains what he did, and she forgives him, falls in love with him, because he's a king, because that's what women did in these stories. They forgave their rapists and married them. This is the foundation of Sleeping Beauty. This is what the story was originally about. Not true love, rape, sexual assault of an unconscious woman. When Charles Perrault wrote his version in 1697, he cleaned it up slightly. In La Belle au Bois Dormant, the beauty sleeping in the wood, the prince doesn't rape her, he just kisses her. This is the version Disney adapted, but even in Perrault's version, there are disturbing elements. The prince keeps the marriage secret, keeps his wife and children hidden from his mother, because his mother is an ogress who wants to eat her grandchildren. The Brothers Grimm version, Little Briar Rose, 1812, is even more sanitized. The kiss wakes her. They marry immediately, live happily ever after. No rape, no secret children, no cannibal mother-in-law. Disney took the Grimm version and made it even simpler, more romantic, more palatable for children. But the core remained. An unconscious girl, a man who kisses her without consent, and we call it love. The original story was about rape. Disney turned it into romance, but they kept the non-consent. They just reframed it as acceptable, as desirable as the moment every girl should dream of, your first kiss, while you're unconscious and helpless. And this isn't just about one old fairy tale. This isn't just about Disney's choices in 1959. This is about what we're still teaching. Right now. Today. To boys who will grow into men. To girls who will grow into women. About consent. About bodies. About who has the right to touch whom. Let's talk about what boys learn from Sleeping Beauty. From Prince Philip specifically. They learn that heroism includes violating boundaries. Philip fights the dragon, battles through the thorns, climbs the tower. He's brave, he's strong, he's determined. And all of that is presented as justification for what comes next. The kiss. Because he's the hero, he has earned the right to kiss her. His heroism gives him access to her body. This is a transactional view of consent. I did something heroic, therefore I get the girl. I saved her, therefore I own her. I fought for her, therefore she belongs to me. This is rape culture logic. The idea that men earn access to women's bodies through actions, through valor, through persistence, through suffering. Boys learn that if they're the good guy, consent is implied. If they're the hero, they don't need to ask. If they've proven themselves worthy, the girl's permission is unnecessary. They learn that unconscious girls can be kissed, that sleeping girls are available, that if she can't say no, that's the same as yes. This is exactly the logic used to justify date rape. She was asleep. She was passed out drunk. She didn't say no. How was I supposed to know she didn't want it? These defenses stem from the same belief system, that unconscious women are available, that consent doesn't require consciousness, that silence equals agreement. Sleeping Beauty teaches this explicitly. The prince kisses the unconscious princess, and he's rewarded. She wakes up. She loves him. She marries him. No consequences for the consent violation. No acknowledgement that what he did was wrong. Only reward. The curse breaks. The kingdom celebrates. Happily ever after. Boys internalize this message. They learn that violating an unconscious girl's boundaries can have a fairy tale ending. That if your intentions are pure, consent doesn't matter. That love justifies anything. They learn about the Sleeping Beauty fantasy. The idea that the perfect woman is unconscious, helpless, waiting to be awakened by male action. That women are most desirable when they're passive, when they can't resist, when they're completely vulnerable. This fantasy shows up everywhere in rape culture. The drunk girl at the party scenario. The she was asleep so I thought I'd wake her up assault. The she was unconscious but I knew she wanted me defense. These aren't random. These are men acting out the Sleeping Beauty narrative they learned as children. They learn that saving a woman gives them rights to her body. Philip saves Aurora from the curse. Therefore, he gets to kiss her, gets to marry her, gets to claim her. This translates to real-world scenarios where men believe that buying a girl dinner means she owes him sex. Helping her with something means he's earned physical access. Being nice to her means consent is implied. Saving her from a bad situation means she belongs to him now. This is transactional thinking about bodies and consent. And it starts with fairy tales that teach boys they earn access through heroic action. They learn that true love doesn't require communication. Philip and Aurora barely know each other. They met once in the forest, danced and sang one song. That's it. No conversation about boundaries, no discussion of consent, no, is it okay if I kiss you? Just assumption. Just action. Just taking what he wants because the story says it's destiny. Boys learn that if it feels like true love, you don't need to ask permission. That romance is about grand gestures, not communication. That real men don't ask, they just know. This is dangerous. This creates men who don't ask for consent because they've decided they already know the answer. Who assume that attraction equals permission. Who believe that if they love her, they have the right to touch her. And we don't just teach this to boys, we teach it to girls too. But we teach them something different, something equally damaging. We teach them that being unconscious and helpless is the height of romance. Let's talk about what girls learn from Aurora, from Sleeping Beauty herself. They learn that passivity is romantic. Aurora spends most of the movie unconscious, literally. She's asleep for the entire third act. She doesn't rescue herself, doesn't break her own curse, doesn't participate in her own salvation. She just lies there, beautiful, helpless, waiting. And this is presented as the ideal. Girls learn that the perfect woman is one who doesn't act, who doesn't resist, who doesn't make demands or set boundaries, who is simply beautiful and available. They learn that their most romantic moments will happen while they're unconscious. Think about that. Aurora's first kiss, the moment the curse breaks, the climax of her love story. She's not awake for it. She doesn't experience it. She doesn't choose it. It happens to her while she's unconscious. And when she wakes up, she's supposed to be grateful, supposed to be in love with the man who kissed her without permission, supposed to marry him immediately. This teaches girls that your first kiss doesn't require your presence. Your most important romantic moment can happen without your awareness. Your consent is optional in your own love story. They learn that being saved is better than saving yourself. Aurora doesn't break the curse. The good fairies don't break the curse. Only the prince can do it. Only male action can save her. Female action is useless. Female agency is unnecessary. You must wait for a man to rescue you. This creates learned helplessness. Girls who grow up believing they can't save themselves, who wait for external rescue instead of taking action, who believe their value lies in being saved, not in saving. They learn that love of first sight justifies anything. Aurora and Philip met once, for a few minutes, in the forest. They don't know each other, haven't had conversations, haven't established boundaries or discussed consent, but it's true love. So everything that follows is justified. The kiss without permission, the immediate marriage, the happily ever after with a stranger. Girls internalize this. They learn that if it feels like true love, consent discussions are unnecessary. That romance is about feeling, not communication. That real love is instant and requires no negotiation. This sets them up for relationships where they don't advocate for themselves, where they don't set boundaries, where they accept violations because he loves me. They learn that their value lies in being beautiful and unconscious. Aurora is desirable because she's beautiful and because she's helpless. The prince wants her because she's the most beautiful girl in the kingdom and because she can't resist him, can't reject him, can't say no. This teaches girls that their value is in their appearance, not their personality. They're most desirable when they're passive and unable to resist. Being conscious and having opinions makes them less appealing. This creates women who diminish themselves to be more attractive, play dead or passive during intimacy, believe that resisting or setting boundaries makes them unlovable, think their job is to be beautiful and compliant while men act. They learn that waking up to discover you've been kissed, chewed on, touched is romantic, not violating, not scary, not an assault, romantic. The moment Aurora wakes up and sees Philip, she smiles. She's happy. She falls in love immediately. There's no "who are you and why were you kissing me while I was unconscious?" There's no violation response, just instant love. This teaches girls to reframe violations as romance, to see boundary violations as evidence of love, to believe that if a man wants them badly enough to violate their consent, that's actually romantic. This is how girls end up in abusive relationships. This is how they excuse the first violation. He just really loves me. He couldn't help himself. It's actually kind of romantic that he wants me that badly. Sleeping Beauty plants these seeds. And this isn't theoretical. This isn't just about an old Disney movie. The Sleeping Beauty scenario plays out in real assault cases, with real victims, with real perpetrators who learn from stories like this that unconscious equals available. Let's talk about what happens when boys internalize the Sleeping Beauty narrative, when they grow up believing that unconscious girls can be kissed, touched, accessed. Brock Turner, Stanford University, 2015. A 19-year-old woman unconscious behind a dumpster, too intoxicated to consent, too drunk to wake up. And Brock Turner, Stanford swimmer, sexually assaulted her. When caught, his defense wasn't, "I didn't do it." His defense was essentially, "She didn't say no. She was unconscious. She couldn't say no." And he took that as permission. This is Sleeping Beauty logic. Unconscious means available. Silence means yes. She didn't resist means she wanted it. The judge gave him 6 months. 6 months for sexual assault. Because the judge didn't want to ruin a young man's promising future. Because society values the futures of men who violate unconscious women more than it values the women themselves. This case isn't unique. It's a pattern. Steubenville, Ohio, 2012. A 16-year-old girl, incapacitated, assaulted by multiple boys. They carried her unconscious body from party to party, photographed and videoed the assaults, posted them on social media, and when caught, their defense was similar. She didn't say no. She was there at the party. She was drunk. These are boys who learn that unconscious girls are available, who learn that if she can't resist, that's the same as consent. Who learned from Sleeping Beauty and every story like it that male desire justifies violating female boundaries. The statistics are devastating. 1 in 6 women in the United States has been the victim of attempted or completed rape. 11% of all high school girls report having been physically forced to have sex. Among college women, between 20-25% report completed or attempted rape during their college years. And in a significant percentage of these cases, the victim was intoxicated or unconscious, unable to consent, unable to resist, unable to say no. And the perpetrators, when questioned, often expressed genuine confusion. But she didn't say no. She was flirting earlier. She came to my room. I thought she wanted it. They don't understand that unconscious people cannot consent, that intoxication impairs the ability to consent, that silence is not agreement. Why don't they understand? Because we taught them differently. We taught them with Sleeping Beauty, with Snow White, also kissed while unconscious, dead, with every story where the prince kisses the sleeping princess, and it's celebrated. We taught them that if she's beautiful, if she's there, if she's unconscious, that's access granted. And then we act shocked when they assault unconscious girls at parties. But we created this with our fairy tales, with our romance narratives, with our refusal to teach consent explicitly because we're afraid of ruining childhood magic. We prioritize Disney magic over consent education, and girls pay the price. So what do? Do we ban Sleeping Beauty, burn the books and delete the movies, pretend the story never existed? No. We do something harder. We do something more important. We teach consent explicitly. Starting in childhood, you can show your son Sleeping Beauty, but you have to talk about it. You have to deconstruct it. You have to teach him to see what's actually happening before you watch. Set the context. We're going to watch a very old movie. It has beautiful animation and music, but there's something in it that's not okay. I want you to watch for it and tell me if you can figure out what it is. Make it a game. Make him an active participant in critical thinking. Watch together. And when you get to the kiss scene, pause it. What just happened? The prince kissed her. Was she awake? No. Did she say it was okay? No, she was asleep. Do you think it's okay to kiss someone who's asleep? Let him think about it. Let him work through the ethics. No, because they can't say yes. Exactly. The prince kissed Aurora without asking, without her permission. That's not okay, even in a fairy tale. Teach him the language of consent. Consent means permission. It means someone says, yes, this is okay. Can someone who's unconscious give consent? No. That's right. If someone is asleep, unconscious, drunk, or can't communicate clearly, they cannot give consent. And if they can't give consent, you don't have permission. Ever. Make it clear and unambiguous. No grey areas. Unconscious equals no consent. No consent equals no touching. Period. Talk about what the prince should have done. What should Prince Philip have done instead of kissing Aurora while she was asleep? Let your son think. Wait for her to wake up? Yes, exactly. He could have stayed by her side, protected her. And when she woke up, he could have introduced himself, talked to her, and then, if she wanted, she could have chosen to kiss him. But that would be her choice, not his. Teach him that consent requires consciousness. They must be awake. Communication. They must say yes clearly. Capacity. They must be able to make a rational decision. Not too young, not intoxicated, not coerced. Willingness. They must actually want it, not just tolerate it. Use age-appropriate language. For young kids, we don't touch people without asking first. That includes hugs, kisses, tickling. We always ask, is this okay? And we listen to their answer. For tweens to your teens, consent is ongoing. Just because someone said yes yesterday doesn't mean yes today. Just because they said yes to one thing doesn't mean yes to everything. You always need clear, enthusiastic consent. And if you're not sure, you ask. Point out other examples in media. After Sleeping Beauty, watch for the pattern. Snow White, kissed while dead, unconscious. Little Mermaid, Ariel can't speak, giving consent is complicated. Beauty and the Beast, captivity complicates consent. Every time you see problematic consent in media, talk about it. Did you notice that? Do you think that was okay? Make critical media literacy a habit. Teach him about enthusiastic consent. Consent isn't just the absence of no, it's the presence of yes. If someone seems uncertain, that's not consent. If someone is quiet or not responding, that's not consent. Consent is clear, eager, active agreement. Anything less than an enthusiastic yes is a no. Teach him that he's not entitled to anyone's body. No one owes you a hug, a kiss, or any touch. Not even if you bought them dinner, not even if you've been dating for years, not even if they said yes before. Everyone gets to decide what happens to their own body. Always. And crucially, teach him what to do if he realizes he's violated consent. If you ever realize you did something without clear consent, you stop immediately. You apologize sincerely. You learn from it. You never make that excuse about not knowing. You take responsibility. This is how we use Sleeping Beauty to teach consent. Not by banning it, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by deconstructing it, by using it as a teaching tool, by showing our sons that just because something is in a fairy tale doesn't mean it's right. And we need to teach our daughters too, because consent education isn't just about preventing boys from becoming perpetrators. It's about teaching girls that they have the right to their own bodies, that their consent matters, that they should never accept being treated like Sleeping Beauty. When you show your daughter Sleeping Beauty, you teach her different lessons. You teach her that she is not Aurora, that her value doesn't lie in being beautiful and unconscious, that her most romantic moment should happen while she's awake and participating. Before you watch Frame It. This is an old story. The princess in it doesn't get to make choices about what happens to her. I want you to watch and think about what you would do differently. Watch together. And when Aurora pricks her finger and falls asleep, pause it. Aurora is under a curse. She can't wake up, can't move, can't choose anything. How do you think that feels? Scary. She can't control anything. Exactly. She has no agency. That means no power to make her own choices. Do you think that's romantic? No. Me neither. Let's keep watching and see what happens. When Philip kisses her, pause again. What just happened? He kissed her. Did she say he could? She couldn't, she was asleep. Right, is that okay? No, you're supposed to ask first. Exactly. Even though this is supposed to be romantic, the prince kissed Aurora without her permission. What do you think he should have done? Waited for her to wake up? Yes. And then he could have talked to her, gotten to know her, and if they both wanted to, they could have kissed. But it would be her choice. Teach her bodily autonomy. Your body belongs to you. Nobody gets to touch you without your permission. Not hugs, not kisses, not anything. You get to say no, even to people you love. You get to change your mind, even if you said yes before. You never owe anyone access to your body. Teach her that unconsciousness is not romantic. In real life, if someone touches you while you're asleep or passed out, that's not love. That's a violation. If you're ever at a party and you see someone touching a girl who's unconscious, that's assault. You get help immediately. Being helpless and passive is not the same as being feminine or desirable. You can be strong and still be feminine. Teach her about enthusiastic participation. In a real relationship, both people are awake and participating. Both people communicate what they want. Both people check in with each other. If you're ever with someone who doesn't care if you're enthusiastically participating, that person doesn't respect you. Show her better role models. After Sleeping Beauty, watch movies where women have agency. Moana saves her island, no romance plot necessary. Brave rejects marriage, repairs relationship with mother through communication. Frozen. True love is sisterly love, the prince is the villain. Mulan saves China, earns respect through skill. Tangled. Rapunzel is active participant in her own rescue. These are stories where women make choices, where they don't need to be unconscious to be loved, where their consent and participation matter. Teach her to recognize red flags. If someone does things to you without asking, that's a red flag. If someone ignores your no or tries to convince you to change your no to yes, that's a red flag. If someone tells you that love means accepting things you're uncomfortable with, that's a red flag. If someone makes you feel like saying no will make them not love you, that's manipulation. Teach her that she deserves active partnership. You deserve someone who asks before touching you. You deserve someone who cares about your pleasure, not just theirs. You deserve someone who wants you awake, participating, engaged. You deserve someone who sees you as a partner, not a prize to be won. And teach her what to do if someone violates her consent. If someone touches you without permission, it's not your fault, ever. You have the right to say something, to leave, to tell someone. You don't have to be polite to someone who's violating your boundaries. You can be loud, you can make a scene, you can protect yourself. This is how we use Sleeping Beauty to teach girls about agency and consent. We don't let it teach them that passivity is romantic. We actively counter that message. We show them that they deserve better than Aurora got, that they should demand better, that they should never accept being treated like an unconscious prize. But here's the thing that makes this so urgent, so necessary, so critical that we have these conversations now. Sleeping Beauty isn't the only story teaching these lessons. It's part of a pattern so pervasive in our culture that we don't even see it anymore unless we start looking. Let's look at how many Disney princesses are kissed without clear consent. How many are unconscious, coerced, or unable to participate? Snow White, 1937. The first Disney princess, the original. She eats a poisoned apple, falls into a death-like sleep, is placed in a glass coffin by the dwarves who loved her, and a prince who has never met her, who doesn't know her, who has no relationship with her whatsoever, sees her in the coffin. She's beautiful, dead, or seemingly so, completely unable to consent. And he kisses her, kisses a dead girl. In some versions, he asks the dwarfs if he can take her coffin home with him. He wants to keep the beautiful dead girl in his castle. That's necrophilia, literal attraction to corpses. But when he kisses her, she wakes up and instantly falls in love with him. The stranger who kissed her corpse, the man who wanted to take her dead body home. And we call this romance. Ariel, The Little Mermaid, 1989. She gives up her voice to get legs, literally cannot speak, cannot communicate consent verbally, has 3 days to get the prince to kiss her or she loses everything. The power dynamic is she's desperate, she has a deadline, she cannot speak, and Eric has all the power. He decides whether to kiss her. She cannot ask, cannot negotiate, can only hope he chooses to. When he finally kisses her, she's able to participate because she's conscious. But the consent is still complicated by she can't speak. She's under a curse with a ticking clock. Her entire future depends on him kissing her. That's not free consent, that's coerced consent. Belle, Beauty and the Beast, 1991. We already talked about this one. She's a prisoner. Captivity complicates consent. Stockholm Syndrome. Every kiss, every touch happens in context of imprisonment. Jasmine, Aladdin, 1992. She's being forced into marriage. Her father legally owns her marriage rights until her 16th birthday. She has no choice about whether to marry, only about which prince to marry. And Aladdin lies to her, pretends to be someone else. Consent obtained through deception is not valid consent. When she kisses Aladdin, she doesn't know who he really is. She thinks she's kissing Prince Ali. That's consent under false pretenses. Pocahontas, 1995. The real historical Pocahontas was 10 to 12 years old when she met John Smith. He was in his late 20s. A child cannot consent to an adult. Disney aged her up to make it less obviously pedophilic. But the power dynamic remains: colonizer and colonized, adult and teenager. Cultural genocide framed as romance. Tiana, The Princess and the Frog, 2009. Kisses a frog believing it will help him. Turns into a frog herself. Most of their romance happens while they're literally different species. The consent dynamics of human to animal transformation are complicated. Anna, Frozen, 2013. Finally, Disney starts to get it right. Anna wants to marry Hans after one day. Kristoff calls her out on this. Elsa refuses to bless the marriage, and Hans turns out to be the villain. The movie explicitly teaches that you can't marry someone you just met. That instant love doesn't mean consent to everything. That true love, Anna and Elsa's sisterly love, is different than romantic infatuation. This is progress. But it took Disney 76 years. 76 years from Snow White to Frozen. 3 generations of children, raised on princesses who were kissed without consent, who were unconscious, dead, unable to speak, imprisoned, deceived, or coerced. And we wonder why consent culture is struggling. We taught multiple generations that consent was optional. As long as the prince was handsome, as long as it was true love, as long as the kiss broke the curse. Consent didn't matter. The girl's awareness didn't matter. Her participation didn't matter. Only the prince's desire mattered. That's what Disney taught for 76 years. And it's not just Disney. The sleeping beauty trope shows up everywhere. In romance novels, in teen dramas, in movies, marketed to young adults. This narrative that unconscious or helpless women are romantic prizes is embedded in our entire culture. Let's look at how the sleeping beauty narrative shows up in modern media. Twilight, 2008. Edward watches Bella sleep without her knowledge, without her consent. He breaks into her bedroom night after night, watches her while she's unconscious and vulnerable. And when she finds out, she's not horrified. She's flattered. She thinks it's romantic. This is the sleeping beauty fantasy. The man's so obsessed with the unconscious woman that he violates her privacy to watch her sleep. And it's framed as love. Millions of teenage girls read this and learned that having someone watch you sleep without permission is romantic, not creepy, not a violation. Romantic. The Vampire Diaries. 2009-2017. Damon compels Elena multiple times, uses vampire mind control to make her do things, to make her forget things, to manipulate her consent. And, eventually, she falls in love with him, the man who violated her mind and her consent repeatedly. This is magical roofing, using supernatural powers to remove someone's ability to consent. And it's framed as romantic tension, as complicated love, not as what it is, assault. 365 Days 2020. Massimo kidnaps Laura, tells her she has 365 days to fall in love with him, holds her captive, strips her, watches her, controls every aspect of her life, and she falls in love with him. This is Beauty and the Beast plus Sleeping Beauty. Captivity plus the helpless woman who can't escape. And it was marketed as erotic romance, as female fantasy. Women are supposed to want this, want to be kidnapped and controlled and stripped of agency. After 2019, Hardin makes a bet to seduce Tessa, to make her fall in love with him as a joke. He's cruel, manipulative, controlling, and when she finds out, she forgives him, takes him back, because he's damaged, because he needs her. This is the Beauty and the Beast narrative again. The broken man who needs a good woman to fix him. But it includes Sleeping Beauty elements too. Tessa is naive, innocent, unconscious of his manipulation. And when she wakes up to what he is, she chooses to stay anyway. The pattern is everywhere. Romance novels with titles like While You Were Sleeping, His Sleeping Beauty, The Prince's Unconscious Bride. These are real books with real readers who have internalized that unconscious women are romantic. Music videos where men watch women sleep. Movies where men kiss passed-out drunk girls. TV shows where she was asleep but I knew she wanted it is treated as romantic, not criminal. The Sleeping Beauty narrative has metastasized. It's not just one fairy tale from 1959. It's a cultural pattern, a template for romance that requires female helplessness, female unconsciousness, female passivity, and male action, male desire, male entitlement. And we keep reproducing it, generation after generation, medium after medium, story after story, teaching boys that unconscious girls are available, teaching girls that being unconscious and helpless is desirable, and then acting shocked when we have a rape culture crisis. So how do we break this pattern? How do we stop teaching consent violations as romance? How do we protect our children from internalizing these messages? We start by acknowledging what we've been doing, and then we do something different. Breaking the pattern requires multiple interventions. At multiple levels: individual, family, cultural. At the individual level, watch media critically with your children. Every time you see a consent violation framed as romance, Point it out. Did you notice that? Do you think that was okay? Make it a habit. Make it automatic. Teach them to see the pattern. Teach consent explicitly. Don't assume they'll figure it out. Don't assume it's obvious. Teach the language. Consent means enthusiastic consent looks like. These are signs someone cannot consent. Make it clear. Make it early. Make it ongoing. Model consent in your own interactions. Can I give you a hug? Is it okay if I tickle you? Do you want me to help you with that, or would you rather do it yourself? Show them that asking for consent is normal, is respectful, is how people who care about each other interact. At the family level, make consent a family value. In this family, we respect everyone's body. In this family, no means no, and maybe means no, and only enthusiastic yes means yes. In this family, we ask before touching. Make it non-negotiable. Enforce it consistently. Don't force children to hug relatives. Don't force them to accept physical affection they don't want. Teach them they have the right to say no, even to family, even to you. Create space for difficult conversations. If you ever have questions about consent, sex, relationships, you can ask me. If something happens to you that makes you uncomfortable, you can tell me. If you make a mistake with someone's consent, you can tell me, and we'll figure out how to make it right. Make yourself the safe person, the one they can come to, the one who won't shame or punish honest questions. At the cultural level, demand better stories. Support media that shows healthy consent, that shows active female participation, that shows men asking permission, that shows enthusiastic mutual desire. Vote with your wallet, vote with your views, vote with your subscriptions. Call out problematic content. When you see the sleeping beauty trope, say something. Write reviews, post on social media, make noise. This movie romanticizes assault. This book treats unconsciousness as sexy. This show teaches boys that consent is optional. The more people say it, the harder it becomes to ignore. Teach critical media literacy in schools. This should be standard curriculum. How to analyze media, how to identify problematic patterns, how to think critically about the stories we consume. Support comprehensive sex education. Education that includes consent, enthusiastic, ongoing, can be withdrawn. Bodily autonomy, your body belongs to you. Healthy relationships, what they look like, what red flags are. Sexual assault, what it is, what to do, whose fault it is, never the victim's. This education should start early, age appropriate, but early, because the problematic messages start early too. Sleeping Beauty is marketed to preschoolers. We need to counter those messages at the same age. At the production level, if you work in media, make different choices. Write stories where consent is sexy, where communication is hot, where asking permission is portrayed as confident, not weak, where enthusiastic participation is the standard. Show women who are awake, active, engaged. Show men who check in, who ask, who care about their partner's experience. Make consent the baseline of romance, not the exception, the rule. This is how we break the pattern. Individual conversations, family values, cultural demands, educational reform, media transformation, all of it together, all of it consistently, until the Sleeping Beauty trope becomes unacceptable, until unconscious women in romance becomes obviously wrong, until consent becomes so normalized that violating it is unthinkable. That's the goal. And I know what you're thinking. This is just one fairy tale, one old Disney movie. Does it really matter that much? Yes, it matters, because stories shape us, And this story has been shaping us for generations. Stories are how we learn to be human. Before we have direct experience, we have stories. Stories teach us what love looks like, what romance feels like, what relationships should be, what's normal and what's not, what to expect and what to accept. Children don't have relationship experience. They have stories. And the stories we give them become their templates, their frameworks, their expectations. When you show a child Sleeping Beauty and you don't deconstruct it, you're teaching them, this is what romance looks like. This is what love is. This is what you should want, and they internalize it, not consciously, not deliberately, but deeply, at the level of assumption, at the level of unquestioned belief. By the time they're teenagers, they don't remember learning it. It just feels true. It just feels natural. Of course the prince kisses the sleeping princess. Of course that's romantic. Of course consent doesn't require consciousness if it's true love. These beliefs feel like common sense, like truth, like the way things are supposed to be. But they're not natural. They're learned from stories like Sleeping Beauty. And once learned, they're hard to unlearn. The research backs this up. Studies on media effects show children who consume media with traditional gender roles are more likely to adopt those roles themselves. Adolescents who consume romantic media that normalizes aggressive pursuit are more likely to accept aggressive pursuit in their own relationships. Young adults who were exposed to media romanticizing non-consent have more rape myth accepting attitudes. Media consumption predicts real-world beliefs and behaviors, especially when consumed young, especially when consumed without critical analysis, especially when consumed repeatedly. And Sleeping Beauty has been consumed by 3 generations, repeatedly, without critical analysis, by children who had no framework for questioning what they were seeing. We created this. We showed them the movie. We sang them the songs. We bought them the merchandise. We told them it was romantic, and they believed us. They grew up believing that unconscious means available. That consent is optional if it's true love. That passivity is romantic. That violation can be framed as rescue. And now we have college sexual assault rates that haven't meaningfully declined in decades. Dating violence that affects 1 in 3 teens. A culture where she was too drunk to consent is still used as a defense. A culture where victims are asked, what were you wearing and why were you drinking? A culture that protects perpetrators and questions victims. We created this culture with our stories, with our refusal to teach consent explicitly because it might make children uncomfortable, with our prioritization of Disney magic over actual safety. Stories matter. They matter more than we want to admit, because admitting how much they matter means admitting we've been teaching the wrong lessons, means admitting we need to change, means admitting that Sleeping Beauty, as beautiful as it is, as nostalgic as it is, as much as we love it, is teaching our children that consent doesn't matter. And we have to decide what's more important, our nostalgia or our children's safety, the fairy tale or the real-world consequences, the magic or the truth. I know which one I choose. I choose truth over magic, safety over nostalgia, critical thinking over blind consumption. And I think you do too, because you're still here, still listening, still willing to have this uncomfortable conversation. Here's the conversation I wish every parent would have with their child, before showing Sleeping Beauty or after, but definitely at some point. The conversation that could change everything. Sit down with your child. Make eye contact. make it clear this matters. I want to talk to you about something important. You know how in Sleeping Beauty, the prince kisses Aurora while she's asleep? Yeah. I need you to understand something. That's not okay. In real life, that would be wrong. But it's true love. That's how the curse breaks. I know, that's what the story says. But the story is wrong about this. Let me explain why. When someone is asleep or unconscious, they can't give permission. They can't say yes or no. They can't choose what happens to their body. In real life, if someone kisses you or touches you while you're asleep, that's a violation. Even if they say they love you, even if they think it's romantic. The story makes it seem beautiful and magical. But imagine if someone did that to you, kissed you while you were asleep without asking, without you even knowing they were there. How would that feel? Scary, creepy. Exactly, it would be scary because you didn't choose it, because someone took something from you without your permission. That's what the prince did to Aurora. He took her first kiss without her permission, without her even being awake to experience it. The movie makes it seem romantic, but it's not. It's a violation. And I need you to know that if anyone ever touches you without your permission, whether you're asleep or awake, that's not love. That's not romance. That's wrong. And if you ever touch someone without their permission, even if you love them, even if you think they want you to, that's also wrong. Consent means asking. It means getting a clear yes. It means making sure the other person is awake, aware, and wants what's happening. Anything less than that is a violation. Do you understand? Yes. Good. Now we can watch the movie. We can enjoy the music and the animation and the magic. But we'll remember that this one part, the kiss, that's not how love actually works. Real love respects consent. Real love asks permission. Real love cares whether you're awake and participating. That's what I want for you. Real love, not fairy tale violation. That's the conversation. It's not long, it's not complicated, but it's necessary, and it changes everything. Because once you have that conversation, your child has a framework, has language, has permission to question what they see. They know that just because something is in a Disney movie doesn't mean it's right. That stories can be beautiful and wrong at the same time. That they have the right to their own body. And the responsibility to respect others' bodies. That consent matters. Always. Even in fairy tales. Especially in fairy tales. Because fairy tales teach us what to want. And we should want consent. We should want respect. We should want active, enthusiastic, mutual participation. Not unconsciousness. Not helplessness. Not violation framed as romance. So let me ask you one more time. The question from the beginning. The question you maybe couldn't answer then, but can answer now. Why did you teach your son that unconscious means yes? You didn't mean to. I know that. You thought you were showing him a classic Disney film. You thought you were sharing your childhood with him. You thought you were giving him magic. You didn't know you were teaching him that unconscious girls can be kissed. That consent is optional if it's true love. That violation can be romantic if you frame it correctly. But now you know. Now you've seen it. Now you understand what Sleeping Beauty actually teaches. And you have a choice. You can keep showing it without commentary. Can keep letting Disney teach consent lessons. Can keep hoping your child somehow intuitively knows that what works in fairy tales doesn't work in real life. Or you can intervene, can teach explicitly, can deconstruct the narrative, can give your child the tools to think critically about every story they consume. can make consent education as routine as teaching them to look both ways before crossing the street. I'm not telling you to ban Sleeping Beauty. I'm not saying burn the books and cancel Disney. I'm saying watch it differently. Talk about it honestly. Use it as a teaching tool. Show them the beautiful animation. Let them enjoy the music. Let them have the magic. But also, give them the truth. This kiss? Not okay. Here's why. Here's what consent actually looks like. That's all it takes. One conversation, one moment of honesty, one willingness to prioritize truth over nostalgia, and everything changes. Your son learns that consent matters, that unconscious girls are not available, that true love requires mutual participation, that asking permission is strong, not weak, that respecting boundaries is masculine, not passive. Your daughter learns that she deserves to be awake for her own love story, that her consent matters, that being passive is not the same as being feminine, that she should never accept being treated like Aurora. And maybe, just maybe, the next generation will be different. Maybe they'll grow up knowing that consent is not optional, that stories can be beautiful and wrong simultaneously, that they have the right to question everything. Even Disney, even fairy tales, even the stories we've been telling for generations. Maybe they'll create a different culture, one where she was unconscious is never used as a defense, where sexual assault rates actually decline, where consent is so normalized that violating it is unthinkable. Where the Sleeping Beauty trope dies, not because we banned it, but because we taught our children to see it clearly, to recognize it as violation, to demand better. That's the world I want. That's the world we can create. One conversation at a time. One child at a time, one fairy tale deconstructed at a time. Starting with Sleeping Beauty, the unconscious girl we taught our sons to kiss. This is the Midnight Tales, where we don't let beautiful lies stay beautiful, where we examine the stories that shaped us, where we ask the questions that make people uncomfortable. What gave the prince the right to kiss Aurora? Not magic, not destiny, not true love. Nothing. He had no right. And we taught our children that he did. We taught them for 65 years, 3 generations, millions of children, all learning that unconscious means available. That's over now. Not because Sleeping Beauty will disappear, but because you know the truth. And you'll teach it. You'll have the conversation. You'll deconstruct the narrative. You'll give your children what we never got. Permission to question. Tools to analyze. Language to name what they're seeing. And knowledge that consent matters. Always, even in fairy tales. If this video changed how you see Sleeping Beauty, share it. Send it to parents who need to hear this, to educators teaching fairy tales, to anyone who's ever wondered why we have a consent crisis. The answer is here, in the stories we tell, in the lessons we don't teach, in the unconscious girl we celebrated kissing. Change the story, change the lesson, change the culture. One conversation at a time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being willing to see this differently. Thank you for choosing truth over magic. Your children will thank you too, even if they don't know it yet. This has been The Midnight Tales. Stay critical, stay questioning, and teach your sons that consent requires consciousness. Always. Until next time.